Good evening, everyone. We are going to straight look into genetics. Um, First, when we talk about genetics, there are a lot of things that needs to come to your mind. I'm going to give you the definitions and some basic things that you need to know about this genetics later. Quickly, I want us to look at the cell again. We've talked about the cell, and we said the cell is spherical and it has in the central area the nucleus, central dark area, the nucleus. Before now, genetics, as it's been known as a science or branch of science that deals with the transmission of characters from parents to offspring, there were a lot of scientific postulations that character inheritance is being based on blood. In fact, this study or this belief has taken a very long effect before the man called Gregor Mendel. Gregor Mendel came up to tell us more about what we need to know about genetics. You know, before Gregor Mendel came up as the father of genetics to tell us what we need to know about genetics, there were lots of belief that blood plays a major role in genetics. In fact, they were believed that character transmission, which means transmission from parents to offspring, is through blood. Not until Gregor Mendel came up with some theories after his basic practice or practical that he did many years ago to tell us that no, that character transmission is not by blood, but is by this thing we called the cell. Like we have already know, enclosed in the nucleus of the cells are chromosomes. Chromosomes. Later on, we shall be seeing the definition of this chromosome proper. But we have to understand that chromosomes are thread-like substances that are found enclosed within the nucleus of these cells. And in every human, we have 46 of them, 46 chromosomes. And these 46 chromosomes are in pairs, which means 23 pairs, which give us the 46. But when it comes to transmission of character, it takes two cells. It takes two cells to come together to give rise to a daughter cells. In this aspect, we are talking about reproduction. And the two cells that are involved here are the sperm. Let's say this is the sperm and this is the egg of the female. And this sperm cell, by mitotic division, what we could known as meiosis. By meiosis, these 46 chromosomes in this sperm cell need to be reduced to 23. While also through meiosis, the 46 chromosomes found in this egg cell, let's say this is our egg cell now, needs to be reduced to 23, such that the 23 is being donated together with this 23 chromosome from the egg to give rise to this. Let's say this is the fertilized egg. So the fertilized egg must be 46, which make up to this normal 46 chromosomes in an individual. And Gregor Mendel, which I have just mentioned earlier on, made us to understand that character transmission is through the contents of the nucleus, which are the chromosomes. In the chromosomes are the genes. In fact, genes struck together makes up the chromosomes. And in these genes are nucleic acid, which are called the DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. And these are the genetic carriers, genetic material carriers of every trait that you see in an individual. I want us to quickly have a view on what genetics is, and then we need to understand some terminologies of this study before we can come back to this to understand fully what genetics is actually, what it is actually. In organism, when we talk about genetics, genetics is a study that deals with questions and answers on how characters are inherited or transmitted from parents to offspring. You know, these questions and answers is what I've just showed you earlier about what are responsible for character transmission. The characters that parents pass on to their offspring from generation to generation, how are they being transferred? If, for instance, a black woman gets married to a white man, and definitely you are expecting some traits in the offspring, how are these traits being transferred? Like I told you earlier, it was believed before now that these character transmissions are found in the blood, not until Gregor Mendel, who happens to be the father of genetics, made us to know or understand that these character transmissions are not found in the blood, but they are found in the cell, in the nucleus of the cell. Like right away, we're going to look at genetic terminologies. In other words, we need to understand the language of genetics such that when we communicate, you're going to understand further as we're going to go more deeper in what genetics is. First, as you can see on the screen, we have the gene. The gene is the fundamental physical and functional unit of heredity. In other words, every genetic information is being found in the gene of an individual. And where is this gene found? Like I showed you earlier, it's found enclosed in the nucleus of the cell. And this gene is found in the chromosome. That is why I was telling you that the chromosomes, they are 46 in number, like I told you, in a complete individual. And in these 46 chromosomes that are found in complete individual, I found a gene which carries this genetic information from one generation to the other. Then we now have the DNA. The DNA, it carries the genetic information in an individual, like as you can see on the screen, and also it is a carrier of genetic makeup in a person. I believe you must have heard of the DNA test, which is very popular, and that is how come you were able to solve some paternal issues or paternal disputes when one is not too sure of character transmission that is being found visible in an offspring. Like if a man do not trust that this offspring is mine, the easiest way to know if actually he is the father or not is through this DNA, because it is the genetic information found in an individual and also the carrier of genetic makeup in any person that you can think of. Then the chromosome. The chromosome, you can see, is a thread-like structure of nucleic acid and protein carrying genetic information in the form of gene. Quickly, let me just try to show you what these chromosomes are. If you remember very well, during uh, during cell division, we treated something in this form called chromosomes. We said these are chromosomes, especially when we talk about the the various phases in meiosis, where we talk about the metaphase, that these chromosomes they comes appear in this way. A chromosome is just like a chain-like structure in this form that I'm showing to you right now. And there are 46 of them, which happen to be in 23 pairs. 23 pairs in an individual. Then if you look at this chromosome, they are thread-like structure. That means they are like thread. And every component of these chromosomes are genes. In fact, genes makes up the chromosome, while the DNA makes up the gene. I think it's more easier to understood like this. Genes make up the DNA. Genes make up the chromosomes, while the DNA makes up the gene. Then, with like you have on the screen, we said they are the chromosome, they are thread-like structure of nucleic acid. That is to tell you that they contain nucleic acid, and that nucleic acid is the DNA we are talking about, and protein carrying genetic information in the form of genes. Then we have alleles. Alleles, this is each of two or more alternative form of gene that arise by mutation and are found in the same place on a chromosome. In fact, allele, in a very simple way, they represent characters or expression. Let's go back to look at this gene. Let's say, for instance, in this gene here, let's say in this gene, we have alleles, which represent character, let's say T. Then we have also here in this chromosome here, let me mark it out, we have T. Then this T now, you can see we have TT on these chromosomes, which I'm marking out now. What does this represent? You find out that this TT that you're seeing here, it represents a character. Characters are traits. We can say this could be for tallness. When one is tall, is a character. And this character distribution is by genetic probability in an individual. I think where we will treat more of genetic probability, you understand what it is. And these alleles, like we have said, there are two or more alternative form of gene. They can be alternative form. For instance, you can also find some alleles like T and T. You can see this small, big letter T, small letter T. You can see these are alternative form expressing character. Why this could be for tallness, this capital letter T, why this could be for shortness. So this could express a character of a short person, why this could express the character of a tall person. I believe when we go more further, you're going to appreciate what these alleles are. Then we have the genotype. The genotype is the genetic constitution or makeup of an individual organism, or the characters in the gene from the characters in the gene forms the genotype. Yes, the genotype has to do with all the genetic characters that are found in the gene. In other words, all the genetic constitution found in the gene make up the genotype. While the phenotype is the observable characteristics of an individual, like the shape of an individual, like as I was talking about allele just now, expressing characters. When you use letters to express shape, color, height, size, sex, whether the person is XY, which is a male, or XX, which you are going to also find out more later. They are all what we know as phenotype. What can be seen that is observable in an individual. Then we have mutation, which has to do with a sudden change of gene or chromosomes. And when this happens, the offspring characters change. A very good example for mutation is something like this. Let's say this is a chromosome. Let's say this is a chromosome. We said they are thread-like structure. Let's say this is a chromosome. I'm just doing this for example that represents a shape of a nose. A nose. Let's say this structure you are seeing here is a chromosome that represents a shape of a nose. That means a normal nose of a person. Then mutation can occur when there is sudden change in this chromosome. That means this chromosome changes its structure to become something like this. Let's say all of a sudden it becomes something like this. You can see the structure has changed. And when the structure change in this form, then we can now say mutation has occurred from this normal shape to this shape. And when there is a mutation, which is a sudden change in this chromosome, then it's going to affect the character. The character changes. It's going to affect the character. What is the character we are looking at here? Which is the nose. In other words, the normal shape of the nose of the individual is going to be defected. That is what mutation is all about. We're going to see more about the mutant allele and mutant genes later. There are also some this is any chromosome other than the sex chromosome. In an individual, despite the fact we said we have 46 chromosomes, among the 46 chromosomes we have, you should have it in mind that 44 are autosome. Have this in mind, please. 44 are autosome, while the pair to make it 46, a paired means two now, is what form the sex chromosome. The sex chromosome. So we have the autosome chromosome and the sex chromosome. We're going to also look at this more in detail later on. The autosome now is any other chromosome other than the sex chromosome. And in human, the two sex chromosomes are XX or SY. So in other words, the SS or the SY added to this 44 chromosome will make up the complete set, which is the diploid number of chromosomes, which is what? 46. Then that is the sex chromosome. Like I've said, autosome is any chromosome other than the sex chromosome. Then the sex chromosome itself is responsible for the determination of sex in an individual. You can see the example there, SS chromosome and SY chromosome.